So the next thing that we're going to do is start building out the form state for the recipe form. Now we're going to use a little hook called use reducer. That is going to take a reducer and initial state. Now, let's start building out how we want to represent this, the form itself, the state of the form. We're going to start by creating a action, which is going to be a typed union. So you can imagine the things that we need to do, like add the name, for example. So we're going to create an add name and probably have the string, I would say. Yeah, because to take the name. And what else? We want to add the servings. So for example, add serving size, and that's going to be an integer. Now, let's just pause right there and let's move on to, there's obviously going to be more actions that we need to add. I won't go through them all, but I'll get this started. So let's start, how are we going to represent our state? So I'm going to make a state type, and it's going to have in it the recipes, which is going to be an array of. Now we're going to reference our recipe. Yeah, there we go. So because we're using the module syntax, we can just reference the types module in ReScript, and that's enough to access the various types that are defined in here. And so yeah, so we want to represent an array of recipes. We want to represent the intermediary states when we're building out a recipe, and we're building out ingredients, and we're building out steps. So let's capture those. We're just going to use like a staged recipe. Yeah, staged recipe, and that is going to be types. So this is where we're going to use the builder pattern, reference the type of our builder pattern to represent those various intermediary states while we're building up the full recipe. So recipe builder.t, and for staged ingredient, we're going to say types.ingredient builder.t, and finally a staged step, and that's going to be types. Actually, there is no builder for this because it's only one field, so we're just going to represent it as an option string field. Now that should be enough to get us an idea of where we're going with the reducer. For example, we'll need to add add ingredient. Let's see, ingredient name, for example. Right. Anyway, we can build that out later. Let's define our initial state. Now, recipes should just be an array, an empty array. Recipes, an empty array. I'm getting a warning here. Yes. It's just our compiler warning us that some fields aren't represented yet. Totally normal. Stage recipe. We're going to use our type builder, our types builder. So recipe builder. It has this convenient empty method on it. So that's basically, it returns the type with nones. Here we go. Here's what it looks like. And then we should add a staged ingredient, and that's going to be much the same, types.ingredient builder.empty. To see what that is, we're just going to click through. Right. So it's all just like all of the optional fields are set to like reasonable defaults. And then staged step, which we're just going to say is a none because it's just an option of a string. All right. So we are most of the way there. We just need to build our reducer. So let's build out our reducer. It's going to take in a state and action, and we are going to want to switch on the action. Now here's a couple things to point out, as I did with the make function. In JavaScript, we have switch statements and if statements. In ReScript, these statements are expressions, so they will evaluate to a value. So I could actually assign like this and run the switch statement. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to return it. The reducer is just going to return the result of the switch expression. All right, so let's put in some, let's switch on the action here. So let's just do add name. And for this one, we're going to return. Now, for all of you who are JavaScript developers, you'll understand, you'll see the familiarity with this like spread operator. Same thing is present in ReScript, so it's nice and familiar. With the addition that we're going to add the, now how did I represent this? So staged recipe, right. So then we're going to say staged recipe is types.recipe builder. No, we're going to reference the state.staged recipe. And then we're going to invoke the, with name, right? And we're going to pass in the name. Great. So not red, it's yellow, it's a warning because I haven't filled out the rest of the switch statements. But for now, let's just go we'll just go take a look at the builder to see what this does. And all it does is it adds an optional name, so it's a sum name instead of none. And then the result of with name is returned, which is the actual optional type itself. So if another thing to note here is that with ReScript, it has great type inference. So you notice I haven't written what the type is that will be returned, but it's inferring correctly that it's of type T, which is this type right here, okay, which represents our recipe as it's being built. All right, so that's very verbose. Let's go follow the same pattern with the rest of the actions that we have defined. So for example, add serving size. We're going to say size, and we're going to spread the state in, and this will be much the same, but it will be with size, with servings. Yeah, with servings. Okay. Let's add, what's the other one that we have? Add ingredient name. Now this one will be a little bit different because ingredient, so staged ingredient, there we go. And then we're going to say staged ingredient types ingredient builder with name. All right. Now, I want to take a look at one thing because at some point when we're building out this form, we're going to have a step called like add ingredient. And this will be invoked when the button is clicked in the UI to add the ingredient to the staged recipe. So this will take in no parameters, and let's just build it out because I want to show you what it would look like. Add ingredient. So it would look like this. We have a state, we have staged recipe, and we're going to add state.staged recipe dot add ingredient. So for example, we would add ingredient, and we would have to invoke like the builder. So for example, We'll have to say like state dot staged ingredient dot build. There we go. Now it is complaining. Oh, right. Yeah. So there's a result type, right? So I'd have to do something like this. Switch add ingredient. So switch state dot staged ingredient dot build, and there would be depending on if it succeeded or not, then we would add the ingredient. So let's take a look. The result is an ingredient or a string, and the string represents like we could actually use it in our form. So for example, if the name is missing, then we return like name is required. So that's convenient. So let's do some ingredient and staged recipe. I'm going to spread the state and add stage recipe and the ingredient. Great. Now, what else am I missing here? Missing the none. Some none? No. Oh, sorry. This is a result type. So it needs to be like okay. Okay and error. Message. Okay. And this is where we might think of storing, for example, we might spread the state but have like a form error and then put the message in or something like that. Now to do that, we would, great. Compiler is telling me that the form error does not belong to the type state, so we can go ahead and add that. Form error, and let's just say it's an option of string. Is that right? Something's going on with my. Just expand this for now. Oh, yeah, I need to include this in my original state object. So it is a option string. And over here, it's none. Great. Okay, so this compiles and it works. You get the idea. Perhaps one thing I haven't shown is how like how I would update the state via the form. So let's do that for the text, for example. So we have an event, and we're actually going to, now let's just do that. So we have an event, and we are going to dispatch the add name. And we want to parse the name out of the target. So let's do event dot JSX event u form dot target. There we go. All right, so the type for this is JSX event.form.t. So that'll help us out a little bit. So let name is equal to JSX event dot form target EV, and then target, we want the name to be target value. Okay, so that's how we on an onChange event extract the value out of the form element and out of the input element, and then dispatch the add name. So this will run through the reducer, and it will, and through this like state reducer, and give us the correct state. So at this point, I'm just going to jump to the next step. If you want a full overview of what this commit looks like, I will definitely publish that, the list of commits, and you can take a look at it on your own. The last thing we have to do is in this app.tsx file, we have to following the original design, we have to pass the state up from the recipe form to the parent, and then from the parent over to the recipe list. Now the recipe list is already coded. It's already operating on, it's already using the types that were generated from the ReScript code. However, it is exactly the same types as were being used before. Now, so here what we're going to show in this final step is that we're going to have the recipe form written in ReScript with types generated from ReScript, but yet the rest of the application can remain as it was, TypeScript. So let's go ahead and do that.